Mm-hmm.
They do ultrasound for sure. Because when I told them that, they said, oh, ultrasound. So, I wouldn't even come in with trace of it. Did I not get any mail? Oh, where is that? We have enough, right? Are we ready? Yeah. Council meeting October 4th, 2010, will come to order. We have a track indicated and executive items are approximate. Mr. Local cell phone pagers, deliberation of the meeting. Can you just pledge allegiance now, or when the people come? Let's do it now. We can rise for a moment of silence and then recite the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion going executive session.
Excuse me, sir, we need a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Yes, and now please press your flashing buttons. They should be flashing. Mayor Natal.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Snyder. Councilman.
That's sick.
Councilman Moreno.
Here.
Councilman Benson.
Here.
Councilwoman Carson. Councilwoman Teeter. Here. Councilman Johnson.
Out ill,
Councilman McIntyre.
out of country.
Councilman Bullock.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Now entertain a motion going executive session. Ms. Teeter.
Yes, move to go into executive session concerning a personnel issue regarding the annual evaluation of the city attorney pursuant CRS 24-6 402, or I can't read the rest.
Okay, Mr. Moreno.
Second motion.
The motion and a second going executive session. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. We will be in executive session. Thank you.
And it'll take some moment to get you set up there.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, on that site, just for the record, the CRS 24-6-402, parens 4, parens F.
Thank you, sir.
We don't know if we have the recorder in there either.
That's what Laura's going to do.
Sorry, forget it.
We are back from our executive session where we had personnel matter. I can say what the personnel matter was, right? It was over the eval for our city attorney, and anybody that knows our city attorney can pretty much figure how it went. He's done a wonderful job, and there's not enough we can say nice about him. Before we get started, I want to thank everybody for the cards and phone calls that I got. It seems like the PR bad stuff has now moved on to the fourth person. Started with Trace, went to Kathy, went to Tony, and now I've got it. So that particular crazy set of stuff has now moved on to the new person. We actually did the start of the meeting and did the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence at 5:30 before we went into executive session. We are going to need to do another
Roll call.
roll call.
And we can do it, we don't need to do it call you by name, but if each one of you, would you look at your, the button that you press beginning and let me know if it's flashing?
Mine is.
Okay, would you please press that again?
Okay. And the reason was at the beginning of our 5:30 executive session, one of us was not here. This will allow us to get that person's attendance here.
Okay, we should be good to move forward with any voting and requests to speak.
So we're okay?
Yes, we hopefully.
Okay. We're going to do all these introductions tonight. Is that something we want to do? This will be really nice if I follow my notes today, because we don't have to do any audience participation or anything. You're just testing me tonight, I know. Danny Thomas?
Danny Thomas?
Pam Stradlin?
Carly Nicely.
Les Nicely.
Ellen Howard. Toba Porgo.
Either one second.
Gene Leffel.
Joy Bishop.
Christy Douglas,
Jamie Kelly Miser.
Carolyn Keith, Parks and Recreation,
Michelle Hill, Economic Development?
Anthony Stellato.
Leonard Houston,
Larry Wood, Police Department.
Ray Clemens.
Chris Craver, Planning. He's running coordinator of intergovernmental relations.
Brittany Morris, Director of Economic Development.
Tommy Aker, Deputy City Manager.
Everybody? Okay. Next item is citizen communication. There's a list in the back for anyone who wishes to speak on any topic other than what was an agenda item.
Mr. Mayor, I have something I'd like to bring up.
Mr. Benson.
I know that there are going to be some people here to speak on agenda item 9A, which is the approving business incentive for Solano's Grocery in Delhi. And I know that I guess normally people don't speak in support of resolutions, and we normally don't allow people to speak in citizen communication items that are on the agenda, but this is an agenda item where they may not have the opportunity to speak at the time that matter comes up on the agenda. I'd like for hear some guidance from Mr. Gaylor about, I mean, it seems like if people here are here and they want to talk about that issue, they ought to get to do it either at the time that the resolution comes up or during citizen communication. So how do you?
Okay. Mr. Gaylor.
In view of the fact that the item is on the agenda, I think that it's more appropriate to keep your policy in effect with regard to citizen communication and limit citizen communication to items that are not on the agenda, with the understanding that when the item comes up on the agenda, you allow a certain amount of public participation, maybe limited to time allowed to speak like you do at a regular public hearing, although this is not a public hearing in that context. But if citizens are here who want to be heard, it's difficult not to listen to what they have to say. But at the same time, you do have a practice where resolutions are considered with just city council discussion, and if there is some citizen communication, allow it. But I would say keep it from being redundant and maybe limit it, and this is a suggestion on my part, to say 3 minutes of presentation or words to that effect, but allow it during that item rather than citizen communication.
Thank you, sir. I think that's a fair way to do it. And I would also, can I just ask how many people are here right now that want to speak on that issue? How many people are in the, just one or two? 4 or 5? Do we expect any more people?
Yes.
So maybe it might be best to leave this right where it is on the agenda. All right, well, good. I think that's a fair way to do it, Mr. Young, as long as people will have the opportunity at that time to come up and say what they want to about 2010-62. So thank you.
Ms. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Gaylor, excuse me, I was going to suggest, since there could be many, if we could lower that to 2 minutes instead of 3, and a lot of times, they can get that in by then. Not cutting anybody short, though.
Mr. Marino?
My concern is the same as Mr. Benson's. I do think that's a very, very fair way of putting it, Mr. Gaylor. So, either time would be fine for me, Ms. Steers' recommendation or Mr. Benson.
Mr. Gaylor, this time, the challenge sometimes is the first person comes up, and it's just a repeat over and over and over. As the parliamentarian, could we have you take care of that particular?
Right.
It doesn't look like anybody here on council is, either pro or con against this particular item.
May I say this, then? If someone has something to say that's already been said, they just need to repeat saying, I agree with what so-and-so said, rather than saying the same thing all over again. That might be an appropriate way of handling that. And we've done that in a true public hearing, where you keep things from being repeated. The point's been made, so let's hear how many people are in favor of that point and then move on to the next point. Okay. Does that sound like a fair approach?
Anyone on council have a challenge of that?
Sure, I think it's just a matter of dealing with that as it occurs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to send us a communication. Remember, when you are called forward, please state your name and address for the record. Council is reminded that questions are fine, but don't get into any kind of discussion or debate. This evening, Carlene Knisley. Good evening. How are you this evening?
My name is Carlene Knisley. I reside at 6781 Lyden Street here in Commerce City. Been lived out here for 55 years, so seen a lot of things happening in Commerce City. I come tonight, I would like to commend the police officer who helped me when my car stalled. His name was Officer James Sia, S-E-A-Y, I'm not sure the pronunciation, for his help when I was driving alone. My car broke down. It was a serpentine belt, so it overheated. Steam coming up. I didn't know if the car was on fire or not. Of course, it was down at the big intersection at 60th and 685. And I put in a call to the police department, and Officer Sia arrived. And it was a hot summer day in July, and there was traffic, of course. And he came up on the scene, and he stayed with me until the tow truck came. Let me get into the first time I'd ever been in a police car. And believe you me, at first I was in the back seat. I don't want that ever again. And then I was moved to the front seat because of the air conditioning and some bottled water. But anyway, he stayed with me until the tow truck came, and I'm sure an officer would say, oh, I'm only doing my job. But I just wanted his superiors to know that we have a great police force here. Thank you.
Well, that is so nice. Miss Nealon. Miss Nealon? If I know we still do that award stuff, that might be something if you could get with the commander and have that done. And I know you guys still do your police stuff. And those are the stories we love here. And we don't, it happens a lot, but we don't hear it enough. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out here. Mr. Marino?
I too just wanted to share you thank you for sharing that story, Carmine. I think it's a great example of how our police department serves this community every day. Just want to offer my thanks to you, and thanks to the officer, and thanks to Commander Blue, and hopefully you guys had along.
And I'm in agreement with you. The back seat is no place to be. Did they make you try to get out?
Well, it was a little difficult. Those aren't very big, those back seats. No pad.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come out tonight. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Since there's only one item on the agenda, we don't need to remove it, since there's only one. Hopefully nobody wants to do it. So I'm open to a motion to approve the consent agenda, Ms. Dieter.
Yes, move approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Marino?
Second the motion?
Mr. Marino, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion at all? Seeing none, Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the title?
Title reads, Resolution Approving Agreement between the County of Adams, the City of Commerce City, the South Adams County Water and Sanitation District, and D&L Leasing, LLC, for intersection preservation at 120th Avenue and Highway 85.
Okay. I've had a motion and a second. The City Attorney has read the title. Here it's requiring a roll call vote. Do we really need that for this? Just a voice vote, right?
Voice vote is adequate.
Okay.
It's a consent agenda, even though there's one item, we still need to roll call.
Right. Because there's no ordinance on there, the voice vote's fine. Normally, the consent agenda is going to contain an ordinance, then you need the roll call vote. But in this case, we're only one item, and that's the resolution.
Okay, I'm going to request a voice vote, please. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is Z893-10, which is the public hearing. And I'll now open the public hearing, and will acting city manager Annette England please invite staff up to review the case.
I asked Steve Haynes to come up.
Good evening, sir. We haven't seen you in a little while, or else I've witnessed.
Good evening to Mr. Mayor and Council tonight. I have a quick presentation. This is for case Z893-10. It's an application for rezoning for a property at 644 Bowen Court. The applicant is requesting rezoning from C3, which is a regional commercial designation, to R2, single-family detached or duplex designation. This particular site here, it's a little bit hard to see on the city map, but it's right here. It's a checkerboarded. This C3 location right here, Bowen Court, runs like this. 56th Avenue is to the south of the property. The comprehensive plan does call this particular site out to be mixed use in nature, and the proposed R2 designation does conform to that classification. Here's an aerial of the site. You'll see several things going on. Again, here's Bowen Court, right here. Here's 56th Avenue to the south. We have the Rose Hill houses right here, zoned to R3. We have the it's like a Head Start preschool or out in Smart Jean, just to the north of the property. We have some single-family homes over here, zoned to R1. And then we have along 56th Avenue, we have a scattering of commercial businesses and residential businesses, some of which are zoned commercial, some of which non-conforming, and they're zoned commercial as well. To the south, we have a variety of industrial uses you'll see here in zone I2. Now, these are some pictures of the property. The property is currently under construction. The applicant is wishing to finish the construction, and in order to do that, we need an R2 designation. Right now, it'd be a non-conforming use. So a little case history on this property. Back in 1980, there was an application to rezoned several properties in this area from C3 to R2. At that time, back in 1980, the application was withdrawn. No notification or explanation of why that was withdrawn is included. And then the applicant bought this property. They applied for a permit in 2002 for a duplex. That was applied. The construction began, but was never completed. The permit has subsequently expired, and now the applicant has some funds again and would like to finish that project in order to get that permit approved. Again, the R2 designation is needed. So this is a proposed site plan. Again, with the existing structure that's in place, 2 units with a garage in the center. Unit A in the back, Unit B here. The sizes are approximately 1,300 square feet on a 13,000 square foot lot. Again, the property to the north is zoned R2. The property to the south is zoned R1. It is able to, based on the site plan and the construction documents I've seen, no variances are needed. It doesn't meet our current standards for an R2 lot with the current design standards, etc. Little analysis from the Planning Commission. Again, the rezoning is needed to make it a legal and conforming use. Right now, if the property were to burn down, the applicant could not rebuild it, or if the applicant wanted to sell it, mortgage companies, et cetera, don't want to loan out to non-conforming uses. So this would make it a legal conforming use. It does conform to the current comp plan designation. It will contribute to a greater stability in the neighborhood by allowing completion of the housing structure. No one wants to see a half-built or empty home there in the neighborhood. It will meet the current building code, and as stated, no variances will be needed as part of this zoning or completion of this use. So staff did receive 3 calls from property owners in an area. They just were inquiring about the request. They were neither negative or positive. They just wanted more information. And then in September, this case did go before the Planning Commission, at which time the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to send this request to City Council with a favorable recommendation. And so therefore it's before you tonight. And that is the end of my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I may.
Questions from council? Mr. Black?
Mr. Kemp, how long has that building been sitting vacant?
I would say approximately, well, that permit was issued back in 2002, 2003. I would say at least 5 years.
Because I swear at one time there were people living there when I was working for United and we'd go to Union Hall right across the street, that there was an occupancy there for somebody. In no time, it's never been...
To staff's knowledge, no. We can double check with the applicant, but I'm not aware of any, certainly not a CO or a TCO being issued for residency.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Benson?
Well, is what this amounts to is that we're going to now allow completion of a property that was half complete. Is that about what this amounts to?
That's correct. If the rezoning were to be issued, they would reapply for their permit and get it, and so they could complete the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to testify on ZE 893-10?
You do have the applicant here.
Have the applicant? Would the applicant like to come forward? No need. Okay, does anyone in the council have a question for the applicant? Mr. Benson?
Well, I would like to, apparently there was another building permit applied for in 2002, and that wasn't followed through. I'd like to find out why that happened. And what the approximate date of completion would be for what we're going to authorize.
Mr. Jones, is that for you or for the applicant?
That would be a question for the applicant.
Sir? You just thought you were going to be able to sit in the back. Good evening. To give your name and address just for the...
Yeah, my name is Mario Godoy, and the address is 7171 Dallas Street in Kansas City. So, could you repeat the question again?
Well, did you apply for a permit back in 2002?
Yes, I did.
Now, what happened to that? Why wasn't it completed?
Well, originally we thought it was going to be a smaller project with a bigger project. Of course, we were out of money, so we were not able to complete the project.
So do you now have a building permit, or is this what you want this rezoning for?
That's right.
Building permit.
That's exactly why we are getting this only because when I bought this property, We bought it under the understanding that it was an R2. We got building permits and everything based on an R2. And I knew that it was a C commercial property until Steve Cook called me like, I don't know, 5 months ago, and we started this property.
You know, I guess I'm wondering if this has always been C3, how was he able to get an R2? I guess you can always put something better on the property, can't you?
We think from the research we did back in that it was a mapping error, and so that's what was creating communication.
Right.
So confusion.
And you feel like you've got the funds now to go ahead and complete this project?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's all I think.
Turning around, we go against wishes to say something about this? Seeing none? Thank you, sir. We'll close the public hearing. Do you have something?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please come forward. I will reopen the public hearing. Good evening.
Good evening, my name is Joy Bishop. I live at 6491 Glencoe Street in Commerce Street. This property at 7171 Dahlia, where Mario claims to be living, has been in violation of the codes and ordinances of this city for quite some time. The property there is not finished, and there are items on the property side that should not be there according to our codes and ordinances. So this might need to be looked into further before we just take his word on when this is going to be finished.
Benson?
Well, what is the time period that this has to be completed? Because if there are problems on the site, and the applicant is talking about resolving some of those problems by completing the construction of this, I can't see that there's any downside to approving this, but how long is he going to have under a building permit?
Once the building permit is applied and approved, the applicant has up to 6 months to start construction, or continue construction, if you will. And then my understanding is that as long as work is maintained, right, there's no official deadline when that CO has to be issued, but there certainly has to be ongoing work.
Mr. Gator?
Mr. Mayor, as a point of clarification, the property at Dahlia Street needs to be looked into as a separate matter. The property in question here this evening is 5644 Bowen Court. So we're really talking about the different property. Right.
Yeah. And to further, the property at 7171 Dahlia is actually unincorporated at this time.
Yes, that answered it. I got the two addresses confused, and if one is unincorporated, that answered my other question. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the audience? Comments from council? Being none, close the public hearing. Entertain a motion to accept the findings and recommendations of the planning commission. Mr. Bullock?
Move to accept the recommendations of the planning commission and the findings.
Mr. Marina?
Second the motion?
Okay, so we moved and seconded, accept the findings and recommendations of the planning commission. Is there any discussion? Mr. Benson?
No, I was going to either second or move to adopt the ordinance, which I'll do.
Same. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Have a voice vote, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you. Now entertain a motion to approve Z893-10. Mr. Benson?
Yes, move for the adoption of zoning ordinance Z-893-10.
Ms. Teeter?
Second motion?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve Z893-10. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, will the city attorney continue the title?
Title reads, an ordinance rezoning from C3 to R2 zone district, the property described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof, located at 5644 Bowen Court, Commerce City, Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the city of Commerce City, Colorado to reflect said rezoning.
Okay, thank you. My motion is second. The city attorney to hear the title. Request a roll call vote, please. vote is 6 yeses, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Can I say something to the
Attorney
applicant?
Candace Teeter.
This is to you. I forgot what your last name is. Can you make sure that this property that you will be building, continuing on 56th Avenue and Bowling Court, that you are in compliance with code enforcement and all with the property? Thank you, sir.
Okay, tonight there's 3 resolutions that are not included in the consent agenda because they require a separate voice vote. First is Resolution 2010-62, a resolution approving business incentive for Stilettos Grocery and Deli Incorporated. Now ask Acting City Manager Anna Nealon to invite staff up to open the discussion on the resolution.
I'd like to ask Brittany Morris, the Economic Director, to come up and explain the resolution.
Good evening.
Mayor, members of council, Brittany Morris, Director of Economic Development, and I am pleased tonight to be presenting to you an application from Stilettos Grocery and Deli Inc. for the approval of an incentive application. Mr. Stiletto has applied under our 2010 Commerce City Incentive Package for a 10% rebate of sales and or use tax remitted to the city by Mr. Stiletto for capital improvements associated with his tenant finish, a 50% rebate of building permit fees associated with these improvements, a 2-year 50% annual rebate of the sales tax received from Mr. Stiletto for the operation of his grocery and deli. And he will also receive an additional rebate for the creation of 2 full-time positions and then 9 full-time equivalency positions. I do want to make, is this working? Just want to make sure.
I think so.
If you could take a quick look, there was one change on the handout that was included in your packet from last week. We had noted 18 FTEs. That in fact is 9 FTEs. It's 18 part-time jobs, so that's 9 full-time equivalencies. So please note that you have a copy of it on your desk. The second thing that I would like to note is you also have received a letter from the local president of the International Council of Shopping Centers addressing the Commerce City's willingness to help businesses of all sizes. This is a 2,500 square foot grocery and deli. It is a small business, and we welcome the opportunity to welcome Mr. Stiletto into the Northern Range to provide this necessary commodity. And I just want to read a quick excerpt from the chairman of the International Council of Shopping Centers letter to us. Having had the opportunity to more thoroughly review the incentive package, I wholeheartedly endorse them and commend you and your department for your innovation in their creation. Commerce City's willingness to help retailers of all sizes in this market is very welcome and exemplary. There are and will continue to be incentives offered to the largest businesses only by many municipalities. As ICSE's state director, I can think of no other municipality in Colorado or Wyoming that offers incentives to both new and existing businesses, regardless of their size. In that regard, you are truly unique. He also talks about sticking to the program that you all passed in June. This was a unanimous decision and is available from June through December of this year. I'm happy to answer any questions, and it sounds like we have some testimony from the audience.
Okay. Questions from the council? Mr. Taylor, if you would work as parliamentarian to bring people up as they see fit, that would be wonderful, sir.
Okay, let's start with the applicant, if he's present and wishes to say a few words to the council regarding the proposed incentive package.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, I might add, I think that the rule that we've imposed, limiting the presentation to 2 minutes per witness, should not apply to the applicant, because he perhaps has more to say than what could be accommodated in that period of time. So let's start with the applicant, and then any other witnesses that are going to testify, then pull them into 2 minutes.
Does council have any challenge with Mr. Benson's or Mr. Gaylor's thoughts on that? Seeing none? Sir, if you'll name and address first for the record.
My name is Anthony Stellato. I live at 16659 East 106 Place, and I wrote that down because I'm really nervous. I'd like to thank council for considering the incentive package before you today. I know that grocery stores are something that the city needs. There's a study done that $59.4 million leaves Commerce City in grocery store sales, which, taken at the percentage that the city calculates you charge a tax on, that comes out to be about $500,000 in taxes that goes to the city directly based on $59 million. My store is not going to be that big, I don't think, but I think it will still register as a supermarket the first year it's open. The actual definition of supermarket is at $2 million in sales, and the need is that great up in that part of the city. We will be focusing on healthy, we'll be focusing on allergy-free if we can, we'll be focusing on serving meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinners to the public, much needed addition. You can't get food up in that area unless you're buying, for the most part, fast food. There's a few restaurants that have come in the past couple of years, though, like China Red deserves us. What I wanted to ask council to consider tonight, and I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly, is ask for a 4-year sales tax rebate of 50% as proposed by economic development over 4 years. And there's a few reasons. First of all, there is a need up in that area for a grocery store. I have 14 emails here, including one from Councilwoman Teeter, supporting the grocery store. I have a few people in the audience to support the grocery store. And I think that at every board meeting or at meetings here, I've seen people say about the grocery store. Second reason is when I first approached economic development, that was the plan. It was 4 years. That's what we discussed originally. It was brought down. My third reason is in the business advancement task force, which I believe was a conflict of interest brought up. And now is my time. I guess I'm standing up to ask for you to consider it. I don't know if it's the right time, but in the meetings we normally discuss general items, not scope of items. This is one of the things that was brought up as a scope item. The third meeting after we reviewed it 3 times, the economic development would bring to us their plans, and we would review them, and we would talk about, hey, an incentive for hiring people is a good idea, and then the city would consider how much and for what circumstances, like for full-time employees at one level, for part-time employees at another level, $500 for one, $250 for others. It's all decided by the city. This is the only item I remember that went down to scope, and the person that brought it up and brought it down to that scope, I think was a conflict of interest on their part. And after he brought it up, it became a very one-sided conversation. I really don't have anything else to say, so thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Questions? Ms. Peter?
Yes, good evening. Thank you for coming. Clarification here. When I emailed back to you, I was getting emails of the desire of a grocery store in the area. I did not even know it was going to be brought forward. And then later when I found out what exactly it was, I shared with you that I could not discuss it because I was going to vote on it. But I too agree that we did need a grocery store in the area. I have a question for you, and maybe this has to go with you, Steph. He is asking for 4 years instead of, was it 2? Okay. And would that be times the 27,529? Is that everything, or is it just the sales tax that you want to extend it for an extra 2 years?
It was only the sales tax portion, which was originally 4 years.
Okay, what would that,
I'm estimating somewhere between 10 and 12,000 a year. I'm estimating.
And you said that you believe you'd be able to sell $2 million a year, is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Because that's what definition of a grocery store is.
Well, the definition of supermarket.
Yes, supermarket.
Is that correct? I took the average sales per square foot for a supermarket, which is usually going to be lower than for a convenience store, because it's much wider open. Use the 2,600 square feet minus what I'm going to be using to prepare foods, and the catering kind of side of it, which is the deli side, so which is going to be prepared foods, prepared breakfast, lunch, and dinners. So that's one of the numbers. I don't remember the exact per square foot number for that, and it comes out to be about $2 million in revenue, and somewhere in the range of 10 to 12,000 in tax rebates per year.
Okay. And just to share with you, I'm a business owner too, and I know how hard it is to, make things work and everything. I had a question though to you. We're going to continue on recruiting in a major grocery stores, King's or Safeway, and I wouldn't want your business to fail if this does fall through. Do you have anything to say about that?
I welcome any businesses. I've been in the area for 6 years. I've lived there for 6 years. But the problem is 6 years ago, you had a King Superstore. It didn't happen. I've been out of work for a year now. This is the opportunity that I have to contribute to the community, get my foot in the door in business that I've done before. I've run convenience stores in New York before. So I've dealt with retail. And the way I see it is that King Supers comes right across the street from me because that's where they're slated to go. I could become a specialty store. There are stores from where I grew up next to supermarkets that thrive. There's stores in Colorado, small specialty stores that do very, very well. And I have lived here at that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Anderson? Yes, you were saying that this amounts to over a 2-year period, maybe $20,000 to $25,000.
That's correct.
And when did you originally propose this, and when was the 4% talked about?
Well, it was 4 years, and that was probably about a year ago when we talked to the city.
But it was 4% at that time.
It was
Well, 4 years, I'm sorry.
4 years. It was 50% of sales tax, correct? Sales and use tax, but use tax is up front.
I guess I'm just confused about, we're trying to offer, I thought we were trying to offer more incentives back in June, and I'm wondering why we went down on an incentive. That's what's really confusing. Anybody have a response to that? Why we went down? We were trying to offer incentives, we went down on the incentive.
Can I ask Brittany Morris to come up and talk about that meeting process?
Thank you, Brittany Morris, Director of Economic Development. I want to be clear. A year ago, I was in conversations with a local group of residents who wanted to open up the similar type of small marketplace deli called the Little Mustard Seed Market. We were in conversations for potential incentives, and we encouraged them to wait for the Business Advancement Task Force. In fact, we had 2 members of the partnership participate in the Business Advancement Task Force itself. We had no formal policy in place last year. That is why we want to bring forward something to City Council to vote on, so there is never a question as to what we are providing to potential retailers in the area. So there was never a formal offer made on the table. This is something we were waiting for the recommendations and for the approval of City Council for policy.
Well, you said that 4% was,
4 years. 4 years.
Was discussed. I'm just trying to find out if that's your recollection and how it got down to 2 years.
Typically for our primary employers, not for retail, we have offered in the past a 4-year incentive. We had never offered before a 4-year type of incentive for a retailer. So I can actually provide the documentation of the emails we had sent to the Little Mustard Seed Market at the time, basically saying, here are the things that we have offered in the past. There was no specific offer on the table. The 2 years was a combination of 13 business people in Commerce City who sat together 5 times, volunteered their time to provide recommendations to City Council. This was a mix of prospective businesses and existing businesses of all different industries that provided the recommendation to City Council that you approved unanimously in June.
I know, I voted for that too. I guess it's just like every other resolution or ordinance that we vote on, we pass things and then we see how they work. And then maybe we change them at some future date.
And Councilman Benson, I believe there was a direction from City Council that after the program has completed, which is December 1st, 2010, I would come back to Council with a report for you to consider.
Right. I guess, what kind of incentive have we offered to grocery stores in the past?
I just wanted to make sure that's not proprietary information.
For this side of the grocery store.
The only conversation under my tenure that we have had a conversation about is a 2,500 square foot small deli grocery store, which, so that you know how large 2,500 square feet is, our 7-Eleven on the same side of the street is about 3,000 square feet. The size of that nature, I've only talked to one other, and that was Little Mustard Seed Market.
Because I know, I don't think it's a good idea to grant what I would call exceptions to this incentive policy. However, I think that because we're dealing with a grocery store, no matter how small it is, I guess it's bigger than the 7-Eleven, perhaps we could craft another ordinance or another resolution regarding incentives that would specifically, we can't just make it apply to this situation. We would have to make it apply to all others who met that qualification, like a grocery store. Could we do that, Mr. Gill? Because granting exceptions is not the way we want to go. We're crafting a new ordinance.
And you're absolutely right, Councilman Benson, and that was my concern when we first started talking about this, is that you have a resolution in place that spells out the policy. And if we're going to amend that resolution, then we need to take it up as a item for a council meeting, properly post it as an agenda item, and then we can talk about amending the resolution. But tonight, we don't have that as an agenda item, amending the program for the incentives. So tonight's agenda item is the incentive for this particular grocery store as proposed. So it would not be appropriate to talk about amending that resolution tonight. You'd have to schedule it for a specific council meeting. We would post it.
So what could we do to expedite that so that Mr. Stellato and his plan are not thwarted or delayed? Could we approve this tonight with the understanding that it could be amended, that it's going to be brought up at a later date with the consent of the council?
If we want to keep this item moving for Mr. Stellato's benefit, so he's got something, he would approve the resolution tonight, and then with the understanding that could amend it by a future agenda item, and then we would take it up at a future agenda, and we would have to look at the agenda. October 25th seems to be the next meeting when you could take up an amendment to that resolution. But we should first assure that Mr. Stellato would want that, because it would delay moving forward with what he said and what's before you tonight.
Well, if something happened on October 25th to provide to craft a special ordinance recognizing the need for the about it, we all care about it, and we're going to get a grocery store. And I'm thinking that it would be an appropriate thing to craft a special ordinance recognizing that grocery stores are special businesses in the north part of town. Can it have retroactive application? In other words, if something happened on the 25th, could it be retroactive to now, say that we approved this resolution tonight? Have we ever done that, make it apply retroactively?
Could I just address two things? The first is the Business Advancement Task Force had a very large discussion on the attraction of a grocery store. As Mr. Stellato stated, we have a $59 million opportunity for a grocery provider. The large discussion was around a major grocery store, and they provided the opportunity for somebody who's investing more than $10 million or hiring more than 50 full-time employees to get above and beyond what is the recommended incentive program for all grocery, for all restaurants. So they did have that large discussion and said we need to provide that flexibility in order to get a larger grocer in this area. As far as the small business, there was a large discussion around that as well, and being able to provide the small restaurant or the small grocery or the small market a fair incentive. And this is what they came up with and presented to you, and what the director of the International Council of Shopping Centers supports as being fair. Secondly, to answer your question about retroactive, we've made it pretty clear in the program that if a proposed tenant signs a lease, they are considered an existing business, which means they will only be eligible for existing business incentives, which is less than the new retailer incentives that we provide for in the program. And we did this for a reason. The reason is an incentive is meant to incentivize the business coming in. It's not meant to act as a subsidy for an existing business. While we are definitely supporting our existing businesses and offering them to the full extent that we can, incentives as well, existing grocery and existing restaurants do receive less than those that are new.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Stellato.
Could you please, order, before Mr. Benson can do this, the rest of the council gets to weigh in on if we even want to go along with your plan. You are moving along without us. So you've got to...
No, sir, I'm not. I mean, it has to have the review of the council. I just want to hear both sides to that proposal so that the council can act on it.
But see, we already voted on a resolution in June that runs through December. You are trying to fix something that isn't broke. So what I'm objecting to is the fact that we have a really nice incentive program that is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and before it even gets started, you want to change it. Why don't we let it run its course and see what is going to happen before you... I feel like this is grandstanding on your part, because this is a council of 9. It isn't you and Mr. Stellato going back and forth on how you think it should be done. I think this is done well, and it was crafted well, and we all voted on it. Now, if 13 people sat around a table with consensus doesn't always mean that everybody gets what they want. Consensus means that we work together for an outcome. That's what they brought forth to us, and we voted on it. So before we start breaking it again to refix it, let the rest of the council weigh in on what's been put before us.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock, because the whole thing is lit up, and thank you. I couldn't have been worded better.
I've been well spoken by someone who's surrounded by at least 3 grocery stores and several other convenience stores.
Okay. Mr. Marino.
I actually just had a couple of questions for Brittany. One of my questions you answered about the size of the proposed grocery store. The other was about, so what I thought I heard you say is that since Mr. Stellato has already signed a lease, that means he's qualified under existing, or?
No, the question was, what have we delayed? If If a prospective tenant signs a lease, then they are considered an existing business and not eligible for the new retailer incentives.
Okay, so currently though, Mr. Salado is receiving incentives under a prospective business?
Yes.
Okay.
He has a letter of intent to sign a lease with Southwestern Investments, and we actually put this on a fast track to get it up here tonight so that he's able to sign that lease as soon as possible.
Okay. And the only other question is, because there's separate incentives, obviously Mr. Salado and his business are qualifying for multiple incentives under our program, right, regarding job creation. Could you just go over that a little bit for the audience's benefit of the different, all the kind of different areas he qualifies under?
Sure. Under the incentive program, he qualifies for several different programs that we're offering. First and foremost, the Business Advancement Task Force decided and agreed that grocery store and restaurants were the top priorities, and those were the businesses that they were going to heavily incentivize. So we created the new retailer incentive program, and you can only qualify for those if you are a grocery or restaurant, and that is the 50% sales tax rebate for 2 years. He also qualifies for the new business incentive program, which is a 10% rebate of the sales and use tax we collect for any capital improvement, and the 50% building permit fee rebate for anything associated with that capital improvement. We also have a job creation incentive, which is $500 for every full-time job that you create above the average county wage, which is around $41,747. Anything below that average would be $250 for every full-time job. So he qualifies for those. We also have incentives for existing retailers that are grocery or restaurant. They can apply for a 5% rebate. And that 5% rebate needs to go towards marketing of their existing restaurants and grocery. And then the other part of the program is existing business, and they qualify for the 10% and the 50% as well as the job creation. It's a pretty comprehensive program that covers every facet of Commerce City's economy.
Great, thank you for that overview. And so the last question is just, is Mr. Salado, is he receiving every benefit possible under the current incentive program approved by City Council?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Peter?
Ms. Brittany, if we were to amend this, which it doesn't sound like Mr. Galen, we can do that tonight. We first need to pass the resolution. But if we were to amend it, what would it do to this program?
If we were to amend it midstream, and again, this started June 1st and it ends December 1st, the program, we at the Commerce City Economic Development Division would like to take a look to see how successful the program was and where there are some room, and whether or not we should continue to provide this incentive program to existing and new business. You'll note in Joe Beck's letter in regards to the incentive package that he does recommend that you all extend it after December. So that is something that I will be bringing back to you as part of my end of the year report, December 6th. I will be discussing the incentive program with you. I will say I did end up having some conversations with the Business Advancement Task Force members last Friday, and unfortunately they couldn't be here. They didn't know this would be open mic and able to testify on their own behalf. They weren't aware of that, or else they would be here, to say that they would absolutely want this to go back to the BAT for consideration should you want to amend the program midstream.
Okay, and my second question is, do any other cities in the metro area that you're aware of offer this type of incentive program?
Funny you ask. We actually did our own research on all of the local incentive packages across the metro area, and the short answer is no. We offer a comprehensive package that touches every size of business. Small, you can be 2,500 square foot, small market, grocery, deli, and you can also be consumers and receive incentives. So the answer is no, but I'm happy to provide the research as well.
Right, and I just wanted to share this too. I live right by where this is going to be built, and And I know how bad the grocery store is. It isn't where you said Mr. Bullock lived, you know, with stores surrounding him or not. I want to make sure this is done fairly to everyone. Thank you.
Ms. Carson? Okay. Mr. Benson, do you have something else?
Yes, I did, Mr. Willis accused me of grandstanding. Mr. Stellato is a constituent of mine in Ward 2. This business is going to be a new business in Ward 2. And if trying to help him promote that as grandstanding, then I am guilty, sir.
Mr. Gamler, thank you.
Let's move on to testimony. I mean, that point's made and for the record recognized, and I think council is more interested in hearing what the issues are with the merits of the case.
Thank you, sir. Would you mind calling in the person? Or how do you want it?
Okay. Is there another person that would like to testify, let's say, in favor of Mr. Stillato's request? The request is for 4 years instead of 2 years for the sales use tax incentive.
And please, I know we know everybody, but please for the record, name and address. Thank you. Yeah, there you go.
Piero 14122, East 102nd Place. All I can tell you is make the decision, but not in a desperate state. Make the right decision and don't cut the baby in two. You've got something here that may come in, and decisions that you're making here may hinder other businesses that want to come in. So please be fair about it and give everybody the opportunity, the same opportunity. Don't go special here, special there. Please, don't cut the baby in half and let this person have his place there. If we're that desperate, he's going to make money one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Audrey Goodman, and I live at 14158 East 101st Place. My husband and I bought our house 2 years ago, and we drive 20 minutes to the grocery store. We have 2 small children. If we need milk, we go 20 minutes there, 20 minutes home. If we need diapers, we go 20 minutes there, 20 minutes home. If we're at the grocery store and we get home and we forgot something, we go 20 minutes there and 20 minutes home. So please just take into consideration how much of a blessing to our community that this is. I don't know all of the financials behind it for Mr. Stellato or for the business, but please take into consideration how much we truly need this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person. I know somebody wants to come up. I don't want to, when I ask, I don't want to cut you off, so please stand up if I know you're coming. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my name is Christopher Meek. I live at 996 Fort Telluride Street, Commerce City, in the Reunion, Buffalo area, where the grocery store is planned to be. Just like she said, we drive up to Brighton, or down to Aurora to a grocery store at this time. I also believe anything that needs to be done should be done for a grocery store to be placed in the Reunion area. It would benefit over 4,000 families that are just in the Reunion, not to mention the other neighborhoods that are in the area.
Thank you. You want to break now? Commissioners? Nice seeing you. You're here as much as everyone. And we appreciate it.
Definitely do.
No, you have to push the buttons with a little red light from there. You go.
Okay, thank you. My name is Leonard Newsom. I reside at 1009 Cornell Street, part of the Union area. Mr. Mayor and also council members, the only thing that I want to share is that I've been here talking about this for a long period of time. It's a very emotional issue for everyone. I've been here for 6 years in community. The only thing I'm asking for is wisdom of your part to do what you feel is best right. I'm not going to tell you to go left or right. I'm asking for wisdom and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gaylor, did you need a minute now? Okay. It's nice to just chill he's done. I don't know if you want to sit or stand or whatever's the most comfortable for you, just until Mr. Gaylor's caught up. You could sing a song. Mr. Gaylor, just so you come out of order now.
Right. I don't, are there any other people?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You know, I want to make sure anybody who wanted a chance to talk got a chance to
Well,
talk.
my name is Carlene, and tonight's the first time I've heard about this. I'm from the Port City, and I think we do need to show wisdom. If we already have a plan in place, and we start showing favorites, then the next person that comes along, we're going to go through the same thing, give them what they want. I know there's grocery stores that need to be built out there. I wouldn't want to be, without a grocery store. But I think that the incentive package that I heard here tonight is a very good deal, even in 2 years. But I'm not investing my money in the grocery store. And the figures, I don't know all the answers to that. But I think we have to kind of, be fair about this. And if we've already got a plan, what's wrong with it?
Thank you very much. Now, do I ask for anyone else?
Let's ask to see if there is
anyone else who wishes to come forward.
Okay, let me say this, Mr. Mayor. It is going to make a difference with how this meeting proceeds. I've spoken to Mr. Spoleto and discussed the options with him, and he feels that under the circumstances, he would prefer to go ahead and have his incentive package approved with a 2-year provision in there, but I would like to have him address the council and make that remark, but that's my understanding.
And should we
Would you like to do that first?
It becomes just a moot question afterwards. He's going to say that to the council.
If that's okay with you, if you don't mind, then we'll have
Certainly, thank you.
We'll have him come forward. Come forward again, sir.
Yes, I would like to withdraw that request because opening the grocery store up there is more important than debating about it. It's really something that I'm upset about, but I'm okay with it enough. Just a couple of things. The store is 2,600 square feet. The 4-year plan was the retail development plan that we were talking about in the meeting. And I would just like council to really consider having someone attend every task force, because I think that a situation like this could have been averted if someone with your wisdom who deals with people on a day-to-day basis and understand things besides what's just being said could be there and participate. And I would thank everyone looking down to support me.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Ms. Tudor.
As I shared with you in my email, I too have to drive 20 minutes each way. And I told you that I would be eating at your place a lot and purchasing groceries at your place, and I'll also, this is good as Spinelli's down in Park Hill. And I'm going to refer your deli and grocery store and many others as well.
Thank you.
Good luck, sir.
Love those places. Ms. Carson.
Mr. Sawada, I want to thank you for that change of heart. Make things a little easier for us up here. I think that all of us up here, we're listening to you and understanding what your complaint was. And Brittany, I don't know, maybe I have some questions for you when this is over, okay? But I do wish you all the success in the world. If you do $2 million in sales, then I don't think you're going to need the tax incentive. And by the response that we were all getting on our emails, I think that you probably will do that in sales. I know I will certainly be there.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Any other comments? Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Christy Douglas. I reside at 10970 Unity Parkway, Commerce City, Colorado 80022. I'd like to come before Council tonight just to make this public knowledge that this was my vision 3 years ago. I started this with this vision. My love for this community is beyond comprehension. I love the people here. I love this community. I wanted to serve the community, and I wanted to create a community market for the community. I wanted to see it ignite the economic growth in the north where we have not seen anything. I also wanted to see it unite this community, both north and south. I saw a huge division here when I first got involved. I wanted to bring everyone together. This saddens me, but I just had to come forward and say that I was the little mustard seed market. I just wanted you all to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And something to you, Brittany. Can we do some research into the task force that this gentleman was talking about? I don't know if you wanted a council member to attend. I'm certainly not every task force meetings, but for
Just a quick note on the Business Advancement Task Force. That was a very temporary task force with a very specific purpose. One thing I will be presenting on December 6th at my year-end report is the creation of an Economic Development Citizen Advisory Committee and an Economic Development Business Advisory Committee. And I think that I will definitely be discussing with council that night the possibility of 1 or 2 council members serving in that capacity. And I will rely on you all to make that decision, but it's something I will bring to your attention in December.
Thank you, and I would be one that would be interested in that. Thank you.
Yes, Brittany, would you please come back to the podium? Could you tell me the beginning date of the Business Advancement Task Force back? When did they start and when did they finish?
They were a group of businesses that attended the January 19th Business and Development Summit. We started meeting, and I exactly have to go back in my calendar, but it was in March. And we met 5 times, March through May.
But it was an offshoot from that business conference we had in January where we sent out and asked the actual businesses what they would like to accomplish and how they would like to do it. And the back task force sprung from there.
Exactly. They provided the short-term incentive program and then long-term recommendations for how we can address the issues that were brought forth at the Business and Development Summit.
Okay. I just want to make sure that it was the ad hoc committee that we all knew about ahead of time that was working in conjunction with that business summit that Jerry put together in January, and the offshoot of this, and what was brought to us in June that we voted on wasn't something that was just thrown on us. It was something that was told to us 2 or 3 times before we even voted on it, because you brought it back to us a couple of times before we even had our final vote.
Yes, I provided 2 updates to City Council as the Business Advancement Task Force was going through the process of providing recommendations. And just a quick note, and I know if Jerry was here, he'd say it, we also formed a Customer Service Advancement Task Force of employees to talk about the ways that we can better customer service all of our customers.
Thank you. I just wanted to get into the update in case any of us up here had forgotten how this came about.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Gaylor, have you time to ask your motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time on Resolution 2010-62.
Mr. What? Move to approve Resolution 2010-62, Council seated.
Mr. Marino?
Second the motion?
Motion and second to approve Resolution 2010-62. Is there any discussion? Mr. Benson?
Well, I personally thought that it was solid at the time. It was a second motion.
Okay. So no discussion? Okay, well, City Attorney.
I actually did have one. Just
Oh,
one
I'm sorry, sir.
I'll just say that this particular resolution was difficult for me. It was a matter of my head and my heart. You know, we have a plan in place, so it seems like a logical thing to stick to it. But my heart sees the absolute need for a grocery store up in that area, and that we should do anything we can to advance that goal. I don't want Mr. Stahl to think that this is a door closed. I think we are going to reevaluate the Business Advancement Task Force, and also reevaluate those incentives we offered. And I think that, I won't speak for anything. That's obviously for the Business Advancement Task Force to decide. But I don't think that this is a door closed. I think that there is something in the future still that's possible.
Do I have a motion? A second. Discussion's over with City Attorney. Please read the title.
Title of the resolution reads, Resolution 210-62, Resolution approving business incentive for Stellatos Grocery and Deli Inc.
Okay, the motion is second. City Attorney's read the title. Request a voice vote, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Second is Resolution 2010-56, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution and delivery of an equipment lease purchase agreement to finance the acquisition, purchase, and installation of certain energy-efficient equipment and services. Isn't that all about missing a single word? I'll now ask the acting city manager to invite staff up to open discussion on this resolution.
This is Bert Hallmaker, Deputy City Manager.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This is a follow-up to a presentation which McKinstry made on September 20th. This is the actual contracting and financing for our energy efficiency upgrades that we're going to be making in all the city facilities. A resolution, when we do a leasing type of agreement like this, is required by the leasing company. So we're bringing that forward to you tonight. In your package, you notice that there were some blanks in the agreement. That's a sample agreement. Staff is still working on some of the details. But I can tell you we've had McKinstry sent it out for an RFP. They had one company which came out with best and final, which was All American Investment Group, and they're working with Bank of America to finalize all the details for the actual contract. We're looking at financing this as a lease, where we'll actually be leasing the equipment that we're installing for a period of about 10 years. The lease rate is about 3.7%, which is a very good rate in today's economy. And again, we will be paying for those improvements through the energy savings of the group. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Mr. Miller? Yes, Mr. Akers. Has anything drastically or even any small changes since our presentation from Kinsey about how they propose to go forth with this equipment?
The only, from a general sense, no. We've had one small change, which is related to the fact that we have basically accounts for it as a lease on this building. So some of the improvements that we're making here, we're actually going to pay or make those capital investments up front, but that's only to the tune of about $50,000, which will be coming out of funds that we had set aside for some of the yet to be completed items or punch list type items related to this building. So it's no new funds. We're just going to allocate those funds for this project. But that's really the only difference.
The basic money that they discussed back then through the whole presentation basically stays the same.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Benson?
Mr. Reader, is it true that if that Amendment 61 passes, that a resolution like this will have to go to a vote of the people?
In the future, from my understanding, yes, it very likely could, because we'll be able to be borrowing debt.
I think it would be required by the that's might be another reason for us to act on this.
Bob agrees with that as well, but that's our thinking. And that's why we're working to get this done. It's been in the works, but we'd like to get it done before the elections and everything.
Any comments or questions, council? Being none, then entertain a motion. Mr. Bullock, if you have a question, would you want a motion? That'd be great, Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve resolution 2010-56, Councilor seated.
Second motion?
Okay. So I have a second for Mr. Marino. It's been moved and seconded to approve. Is there any further discussion? The city attorney, please read the title.
Title 8, resolution approving and authorizing the execution and delivery of an equipment lease purchase agreement to finance the acquisition, purchase, and installation of certain energy efficiency equipment and systems, authorizing the execution and delivery of documents required in connection therewith, and authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by this resolution.
Okay, a motion and a second. The attorney has read the title. Request a voice vote, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you very much. The last resolution is 2010-61. Resolution approving a joint resolution in opposition to Amendment 60, Amendment 61, Proposition 101 in the November 2nd, 2010 election. Now I ask City Attorney Bob Gaylor to open the discussion of this resolution.
Probably not much more needs to be said regarding this resolution except to clarify for the benefit of council and the audience. As you will recall, the council has previously passed a resolution that takes a position in opposition to these issues. This resolution came about because of the request of School District Adams County 14, and also the Fire District was involved with the discussions that a joint resolution would be desirable, and to enable passage of this resolution as a joint resolution, the city agreed to prepare the resolution and to then, after adoption by the city council, and then to give it to the school district and the fire district for their adoption. So in a sense, you're doing the same thing twice, except this resolution is in conjunction with the other two entities, and therefore it's recommended at the request of the other two entities.
Before we go to the motion, I just want to take a second and thank School Board President Lewis for actually coming forward to bring this up as a joint resolution, and also while we were at the fire department, that they also joined in. It shows that it's not coming from just one little section, that everybody's being active. But I really wanted to thank President Lewis for taking forward to start this. Mr. Gale.
And I might also mention, because this question may arise, School District 27J advised that they were adopting their own resolution, so they preferred not to also join in a joint resolution that was somewhat redundant to what they were already in the process of doing. And the same is true of the Water District, and the same is true of Adams County. So they're all adopting resolutions, but they felt it was redundant. Those that are joining, it was redundant to participate in this joint resolution.
Okay, thank you. Now entertain a motion. Ms. Teeter.
Before my motion, can I make a comment too? Sure. I want to thank you, Bob, for writing this up for us, and with the school district and our fire department. And thank you for doing this. I think it comes across a little bit more powerful. Therefore, I would like to make the motion to pass, Resolution 2010-61.
Okay, Mr. Benson.
Yes, I want to second the motion, but I also wanted to ask Mr. Gaylor if there's any significance to the fact that this is resolution 10-61.
Okay, the motion and a second to approve resolution 2010-61. Ready for discussion? Seeing none, will the secretary read the title?
I read joint resolution in opposition to Amendment 60, Amendment 61, and Proposition 101 in the November 2010 election.
Okay, motion and a second. Secretary read the title. Request a voice vote, please. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item is under council business. It's a motion to allow the mayor to sign a TRP federal funding application to Dr. Cobb. Mrs. Nealon?
I'd like Chris Kramer to come up and talk about this.
Congratulations on the new addition to the family, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you as well. This should be pretty quick. This is a good news presentation for council. Staff's here to request that council authorize the mayor to sign an application so that the city can apply for TIP dollars to allow us to do a station area plan around the fast track station at 72nd and Colorado Boulevard. A little bit of background, just so council is aware of what's going on. TIP dollars are federal funds that are funneled through Dr. Cog. The vast majority of those are set aside for transportation and construction projects. However, there is a small slice that is earmarked for planning projects. The application that is before you would be an application for that small slice that's specifically designated for station area plans. A little bit of background, the council probably remembers that we did a phase 1 station area analysis of the station to help determine whether or not the city should support the 64th station or the 72nd Avenue station in the EIS process. That was completed, and the city did support the 72nd Avenue station. Now that EIS is out and is recommending the 72nd Avenue station, staff wants to now pursue the second phase of that, which is to look at a variety of things around that station that is a little bit more complex and a little bit more in-depth. And those would include things like land use analysis, zoning analysis, a circulation plan, a public outreach plan, and an infrastructure analysis, looking at possible costs to the city long term. The particular application would be for a $100,000 grant and a $25,000 match. Council might remember this being a part of the 2011 CIP budget presentation, and in that, staff was unaware that a local match would be required. So given that we did find out after that a local match would be required, we will have to include this in the 2012 CIP budget proposal to council next year. We've got the application put together. As soon as we get the mayor's signature, we have to submit that by Wednesday. We have done an initial analysis of our score, and based on the rumors on the street about how some other communities are scoring, we're looking very good for the first round, which will be voted on by the Dr. Cox board in November. If we do not make that cut, the second round will be in January. So with that, staff is recommending that council authorize the mayor to sign the TIF application for one.
Well, I'm going to authorize the mayor to sign this TIF application, and I think that Mr. Kramer and I have discussed the fact that we need to make sure that I'm up to speed before we move it back around. Thank you.
First, I just want to ask, with that local match, the 25,000, so that the 25,000 comes from Dr. Cog and then we would match as a city, or is that a separate source?
No, that's a good question. So the application that we're submitting shows for the Dr. Cog, the TIF portion of the federal funding would be $100,000. Our portion, our local match, what we're obligated to pay is $25,000. For a grand total of $125,000. We did a survey of some of the other stationary plans that have been awarded in past years, and that's actually on the low end, which is interesting in some regards, considering some comprehensive plans cost $250,000. A half-mile radius plan is costing upwards of $150,000 in some communities. So,
thank you.
Ms. Carson?
Well, I was just going to second the motion.
I don't have a motion yet.
Oh, I thought Mr. Benson made it.
Mr. Benson made a motion.
I made a motion.
He did.
Okay. You're done then?
no, a motion and a second.
A motion. Ms. Carson will take the second. Nothing we need to read, correct, sir? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is review of council policy number 2, paragraph D4. Mr. Gaylor, you can get a discussion.
During this past year, this council has been called upon to make quite a number of decisions that have been difficult, controversial, and any time you have that situation evolve, it becomes very obvious that you don't always agree. And as a result, in the course of discussions, sometimes the discussions even become somewhat heated, and we all make this mistake. I've been guilty of it myself, that you recognize the problem and you're so intent on making sure that your point is made clear to everybody else, and you're trying to influence their vote, that sometimes we show somewhat less respect for the other person's opinion. We're talking about opinions here because opinions lead to the vote. And when you, as a city council, or I, as an attorney in one of our litigation cases, find disagreement, we get impatient at times. And you have a council policy that you've all read, but it is appropriate to periodically review that policy and simply state it. The policy says, show due respect for your fellow council members. And that would apply to each and every one of you, and I extend that to me as your attorney, to show respect. And I have to remind myself when I'm in one of our city cases where I'm not getting agreement from the opposition, that I have to remind myself to remember that respect is owed to the opposition, even though we don't agree with it. So tonight, it's placed on the agenda as just a a reminder, if you will, that there are occasions, certainly, when you disagree with your fellow council person, but it's also important then to remember that your fellow council people are in office, elected office, and you owe them full respect and cooperation in trying to administer an agenda. So tonight, without much more ado, I just want to point out and remind you that there is a certain amount of decor that you have to keep in mind. Your own council policy says show respect to the other council members. And I don't think when you are thinking without controversy in front of you, that any of you would disagree with what I'm saying. It's just when the heat of the moment arises, it gets difficult sometimes to always remember that council policy. And the council policy is there for good reason. And I think in general, we abide by it. But there are occasions when I think we all observe, sometimes we forget and don't abide by it as much as we should. So, word of caution, word of reminder, council policy is there. Council policy number 2, paragraph B4 that I'm referring to, show respect to your fellow council members whenever you are dealing with an item on the agenda. Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Gaylor, was this put on the agenda at your request or was it at the request of any one or more council members?
Actually, it was not at the request of any more than one council member. It was at the request of myself with the agenda committee in observing some of the activities at the city council meetings, not necessarily just city council, although that's all the council policy applies to. But I remember, and I even hesitate to recall it, one evening in the heat of a discussion, even I, with Councilman Dominic Marino, made a motion. And I made the unfortunate remark, not showing the full respect that he's entitled to as a council member, that I regretted and apologized after the meeting. But it's just one of those things that all of us is guilty of. And there have been meetings where I've observed that, and others, management has observed that with the city council in general, that a general reminder was probably appropriate.
Was that Mr. Moreno's motion to have every ordinance brought forward for a vote of people? I thought that was a very good motion.
And I think it maybe was in hindsight, but I made the unfortunate remark that I didn't give full respect to that motion. And I did apologize to Mr. Marino afterwards, did I not?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Maybe you didn't see the humor in that motion.
No. I know. Okay. I didn't see the humor in it, and I probably took it wrong. But as an example, I'm using myself as an example and hoping that each of you will, if the shoe fits, wear it, so to speak. Okay. Mr. Peter?
Yes, just real quickly, Mr. Gaylor, I do think this is a good reminder. I have heard from people sitting in the audience and also watching it on TV that we need to get ourselves, in control, and that they don't appreciate the arguing and lack of respect. So thank you for bringing this forward to us.
Thank you very much. Next item is administrative council business. Again, this is not reports. This is something that you want to bring before council where some action either at this time or at a future time. Mr. Marino?
I did just have a couple of items. One of the things that I heard from a couple of people in the community recently is some concern over their water bills. They think that they have gone up quite a significant amount. So I just wondered if staff would mind getting in contact with the water department and giving a report to council any hikes that they've made in their rate or anything like that.
Jalen, do you have that? Realizing that it's not part of our city business, but it would be something good for us to know.
Is it okay that we come back with the council communications? We'll track this as an action item and come back, and not next meeting, but the week meeting after that.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Now we'll go to reports.
Mr. Marino still has something
Oh,
else
I'm
to ask the
sorry.
council.
Did I cut you out again?
Sorry. No, it's fine. I was going to bring this up under reports, and it's not really an action item, but I'll just mention it now. I received an invitation to go to Washington, D.C. and join the Vice President in celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And so what I was asking is I wanted to clear that with the council. I would like to use, I have funds in my council account. I would like to use that for the travel. I won't be using any kind of per diem or anything like that. But for the travel, the expense of getting there, I was going to plan to use my council expense account if anyone had any challenge with that, because it's not an extra expense for council, it's just coming out of mine.
Congratulations, sir, on being recognized. Mr. Bullock.
That comes under administrative council business, Mr. Marino. That is not something we wait for reports about. So in the next time the president or vice president invites you out, bring it up at the beginning of the meeting, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, sir. You want to start reports?
Sure. I don't have much to report other than some sad news. We lost one of our citizens this week, Maggie Morales. I'm not sure how many knew her, but she was one of Commerce City's just amazing people who aren't particularly recognized, but are really pillars of the community when you think about it. Her daughter, Christina Morales, works in the Parks and Rec. She works at the front desk. So I'll have a card next week that maybe all of us can sign to give to Christina.
Mr. Nealon, we somehow have we do also do flowers or something, somehow get this, however that system works.
Okay, I made note of that.
Okay, thank you. And that, that's a good thing for each of us, especially for the council people who have been here the longest. Mr. Burling and Ms. Teeter, not that you're old, but you know more people than some of the rest of us do, to keep in touch, because a lot of times these things get by us.
And then the only other thing, I want to just give my compliments to staff. Not only do we have council communications now, but we have a little inside edition council briefing on city matters. I think that's fantastic. It's really nice to see just kind of like an extra report of what each department is doing. So I just want to say keep up the good work. This is really great to have.
Mr. Benson.
Yes, thank you. Well, last Thursday we had a E470 meeting, and as I said several times before, a lot of our business is taken care of in executive sessions, so there's not much I can talk about. But my whole mind was changed altered Thursday night when I was sitting next to Mr. Hager watching the Oklahoma State Texas A&M game and listening to him scream and holler as Oklahoma State kicked a field goal in 2 seconds. And the game 38-35. And so Mr. Hager did owe me a lunch from last year in a basketball game, and now working. It was a double or nothing night. So congratulations to OSU. And I also attended the business summit on Friday morning.
I really don't have a report, but I did want to thank Pat and Assistant Manager and that team for such a good job that you've done on city managers in a way. And then who's ever responsible for the council communications and such, thank you. I agree with Councilman Marino, it's great to have. And then I just wanted to say to Councilman Marino how proud I am of the invite that you received. President Joe Biden, I don't know if you all remember, visited our great city when he was campaigning and did a big rally at the high school. and now we're going to send him one of the graduates from that high school. So I know it will mark Commerce City in his mind forever, and I know he will represent us well. So just wanted to say it's a pleasure to do that. Is that here with you?
Thank you.
Yes, I want to congratulate you, Dominic.
Thank you.
And also last Friday, I attended the Business Summit, the award breakfast, and was honored to give Pam Down's sister her award. And thanks to the ED staff for making that such a success. Thank you. And Ms., honestly, thank you for all you do. I mean, you get these resolutions done along with Mr. Gaylor, and you contact the people, and wanted to thank you again.
Yes. Thank Brittany and her staff for the business appreciation breakfast we had. And if you had a chance to be there, it was a really touching moment when they presented and named it the Lilac Awards, and for Pam Downs and everything, and her family was sitting there and everything, and it was just, the awards were great, but I think that part just did it all, because it just put a really touching moment on it, and it just made you feel great, I'll say it again, I feel great. Tomorrow night we're going to have the senior summit from 5 to 7 over at Mugsie's Coffee House over in Derby. The Bluestem banquet that's been announced in here has been canceled because of health reasons. One of the participants in it has cancer, and we moved it to the spring with the opening of the visitor center, because we don't want to leave people out, and this person will not be able to attend because they're seriously ill. And so it's one of these things that I keep seeing it in here, and I keep thinking, somebody's going to tell them, somebody's going to tell them. Well, I better tell you. So everybody doesn't show up for a banquet and nobody's back. I was already be there. Okay. And this is, you will notice I'm wearing pink, and I will be wearing pink all month. And it's because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And yesterday I was down there for the march, and it was great. It was just the most moving thing you ever want to see when you're coming around the curve, coming up onto the bridge, and you see people for as far as you can see in front of you and as far as you can see behind you. There's nothing but a wave of people. So, I mean, it was Race for the Cure. If you haven't ever done it, you just got to go down there 1 year and get involved in it, and then you'll just do it year after year after year. And I was telling them yesterday, I can't wait till we don't have to do that again. And they find the cure, and this is over, and all we have to do is go down a year and say thank you, because that's what I'm waiting for. So I guess, as far as reports go, I made enough for everybody else that didn't have one, so thank you.
Thank you, back to Ms. Teeter.
And Mr. Clements, I did not mean to ignore you. Every time I ask you to do something or check into something, you follow through. And I thank you for checking into the light situation.
I want to thank, I don't doubt she's listening, but I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Snyder for sitting in for me again for 2 weeks. I have had a rather negative impact on my health. There's a fairly good chance that I may be going under the knife. Could be 6 to 8 weeks if that's the way it goes. I will know, I guess, in the next couple of weeks. So I thank everybody for cards and letters. But I really want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Snyder for sticking up. Some of the things that have come up since I've been gone, I am so impressed. We have a newspaper now that has us, 27J, 14, Water Board, and everybody gets it. If they go to their mailbox, it's there. It is about time we finally gotten all these groups together and got this information out, and when you read it, it's all positive. It tells the good things. It's absolutely wonderful. Even what I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm supposed to be laying on my side for the next 3 weeks, but, that's not going to happen. And I'm on some fairly good drugs, so that works. But Wednesday, went to a Rapids game and met with some students from Munich. I have a present from them, to go in our board. They're here doing a report on airports and DIA and trying to work air traffic between the two airports. I'm just baffled. I mean, we're the city of Commerce City. We have almost 50,000 people here, and we are welcoming everyone. Thursday, Access Housing Awards Dinner. Thank you, Mr. Marino. This is a phenomenal hands-up group. They had a wonderful event. It was an awards dinner, and everybody was there to get it except Mr. Hickenlooper, but he sent us a nice video, which was nice. Friday, Business Appreciation. That's the best one. It was phenomenal. I mean, this was just the coolest thing I've ever seen. And everybody was in their place. I appreciate all the council people that showed up. It was phenomenal. I want to thank Mr. Cordero because he actually had to drive me down to the air quality meeting. We lasted almost an hour before I wanted to throw things at people, so he carried me out of the room. I think that's probably all I have. And please, I'm going to come to both of you. Ms. Nealon, I know I'm probably not going to be the only one that was showed up Saturday night at that dinner, so you might want to get something sent out that says that was canceled. Now, Ms. Nealon, to you. I'm sorry, you're always supposed to be first, and for some reason, you always wind up being last.
I am wondering if I need to refer back to you about your back. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
About a trip.
Yes, a trip. Because of, thank God this happened in Florida and Bahamas instead of happening in China. But due to my illness, there is absolutely zero chance that I'm going to be able to go to China for this. Mr. Barber has been informed. Ms. Nealon has also discovered that she is not going to be able to go. I mean, it's a council decision if they want to try to jump into this in the middle. But my feeling is that to do a bad job would not show our city or our state any good, where if we were to push this off to a further date, I think we would be better off with this council decision. Because right now we're 3 weeks away, and with my back, 14 hours in the plane to get to China. The only thing I want to see when I got to the other end is open again, which probably wouldn't look good on the front page, which is what we're supposed to be looking at.
The only thing I want to say is if there's an interest, tomorrow is our drop dead date to express to the NAMI group that we're going to send someone. So if we don't hear anything tonight, we're probably at our last minute. Okay. With that, I'll give some reports. First I want to give credit to several people that have helped out with the council communications, all leadership team, all the staff. Laura, while we're in the meeting, is helping us. I worked with her and our public information in probably about February, March, and set up a whole new software so that we can track our concerns. As you're talking, we're putting them in, and then Tom Aker and myself review those every Tuesday and ask staff to respond back a week and a half later. And with that, Ross Hilker does a fantastic job of compiling those and putting them in the council communication. So it's a team effort, and it's through council's feedback that helped us understand what we need better. So we appreciate that. What we have done at this council communication is make sure that we pick up everything that we knew about September 21st meeting back. So if there's some things missing, we need to know that. But that was our attempt in this one. We not reported it in the council communication to you before. So we picked up anything that was old. With that, in the inside edition, I think these are maybe noteworthy for those people, for citizens out there, that there's a job fair going on. It's going to happen on Tuesday, October 12th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Embassy Suite Hotel at DIA. This is for the Canopy Airport parking, and there's Commerce City had an economic development agreement that would provide the first source of hiring to Commerce City residents. So if anybody needs additional information, contact Brittany, but that's priority to Commerce City residents who are looking for jobs. Very important. Kudos to Brittany. She's also doing a great job. It's Economic Development Council has their fall conference here at the Curtis Hotel, and Brittany's moderating a panel. And she's the co-chair of the conference, so kudos to her. Public Works, East 96th Avenue and State Highway 2 improvements. We gave you a report, I think, from the citizens. There'll be detours in place for the next 2 months, so bear with the construction that's going on there. And then Lafarge Construction, it's a CDOT project, is happening, but on the dates of Wednesday, October 6th and October 7th, northbound on the 6th, southbound on the 7th, there'll be detours to go run to Magnolia Street so they can finish their paving. Police Department is thanking for the substation being open. They're saying that they still have access to the network. They can finally get access to the reporting, and they're having citizens in the area stop by. They're not open 24/7, so they want to make sure that we're aware that they have a lieutenant and 2 crime prevention officers who work at the substation, but hours vary. And last but not least, the police department is holding a community meeting on October 6th at 6:30 p.m. at Stewart Middle School. The address is 15955 East 101st. The main topic is the recent car break-ins that have been occurring in the northern part of the city. And they again remind the public for their help in calling 911, encouraging to report any suspicious activity, and along with removing all the valuables from your cars. So,
Mr. Gaylor. Mr. Marino, and then Mr. Fuller.
Mr. Marino.
Okay. Mr. Marino, I'm sorry I cut you off before.
I just want to say that's really cool about the Commerce City residents getting first preference about that. That's really cool. So keep up that good work. In light of the mayor's recent announcements about China, I would just say that my own personal opinion is just to offer the Chinese a very gracious decline of their invitation, considering that Miss England is also available. But that's just my personal opinion.
I just wanted to mention that this Saturday the 9th is the Power Road landfill free day, and plus we're having the Second Creek trail opening on October the 9th also. And there was 2 things that I wanted to remember, and I forgot when I was giving my report. So if anybody has anything to get rid of, this is the day to do it. And then walk on the trail.
And I have 104th and Kitchener, is that right, Mr. Fuller? Is that where the event is?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. 104th and Kittredge Avenue, Buffalo Mills Mesa Trailhead.
Okay, but wasn't it Sunday? Are you doing the Buffalo Run?
Yeah, I'm doing the Buffalo Run Pocket. Oh, yes, if I hadn't got that in, Minutes would have strangled me. That's Buffalo Run this Sunday.
You cover for me, I cover for you. If there be no further business to come before this board, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
What time is it? I'm going to say hi.
I can push you along in the wheelchair if you like.
That would be cool. You know? Yeah, that was from Parks and Rec. She brought it over. I told her there was no way they didn't have to carry in
Well, I still think I can go out. Second.